let's get into this Kurt Cobain story. So apparently there was a story that was going around, and I totally forgot to bring this up, but Onyx brought it to my attention. So I was like, let me check. As I told you, I was going to look into it. And so now we here with the story. So there's a Seattle cop that has a book coming out. I think it's like a fictional book about a rock star or whatever the case was. But he was on that case in regards of, the whole Kurt Cobain unaliving of himself and that sort of thing. But now he coming out saying that that's not what happened, that apparently rumors is floating around that Kurt actually may have been red rummed. We got to choose words wisely when we on this show because you know how the algorithm, you know, police like to come for me. I'm trying to find a word to kind of, fixate what I'm trying to say. So it's a little trigger warning, but we all grown here. We ain't got to do trigger warnings and close and what is it? This story is rated R for violence, subject matter, and sexual situation. Well, we ain't got to do all that shit. We all adults. We can. I can be as unfiltered as I want. Hence the title of the show being called Chris Avalon Unfiltered. So according to this story, this is from the Daily Mail. They said Kurt Cobain was found lifeless in a greenhouse attached to his Seattle home, and within a few hours, investigators declared his death a suicide. Now, a retired Seattle police captain has claimed that the physical evidence from the Nirvana frontman's death scene does not add up, alleging the case was mishandled and staged to look like he took his own life. But I wonder who actually had something to do with that. Like, why would they stage it? Neil Lowe, who spent 50 years with the Seattle Police Department, which would be SPD for short, and was asked by his chief to audit the Cobain case in 2005, told the Daily Mail he believes investigators failed to treat the rock star's death as a potential homicide properly. Saying, quote, I'm just not buying that Kurt did that to himself, he said, describing the SPD investigation as botched. However, Lowe did not work on the initial investigation and it was not conducted at the assigned precinct. Okay, so I take it back that he didn't work on the case. Now, he cited that he described and as anomalies in blood evidence, the violence of the shotgun wound, and alleged inconsistencies at the scene. Lowe, who retired in 2018, discussed inconsistencies within the autopsy and SPD reports, including missing notes, omitted witness observations, and conflicting details about events leading up to Cobain's death. One thing about report writing is the human error factor, misheard, misunderstood, transposed thoughts, and forgotten details, says Lowe. They were led astray. I might have fallen for it too, but now I think it's a homicide, and I do think the case should be reopened. Now, when asked what process were conducted to determine whether Cobain's death was a suicide before the toxicology and autopsy were completed, the SPD told the Daily Mail Kurt Cobain died by the S word, that's what we'll have to call it in here, in 1994. This continues to be the position held by the Seattle Police Department. Cobain passed away on April 5th at age 27 from a pow-pow wound to the head, and it was from a shotgun. His body was found 3 days later by an electrician installing security lighting at the house. At the time, the King County Medical Examiner ruled his death a S word by a Remington model 11-20 gauge shotgun, as the weapon was found in his arms by a suicide note in a nearby potted plant. That conclusion has been upheld for more than 3 decades, despite recurring alternative theories surrounding the rock star's death, including a recent paper from a group of independent researchers that claim the evidence points to homicide. While Lowe's comments echo some of the theories, they are unusual coming from a senior law enforcement figure and one who says he initially accepted the suicide ruling. The ex-cop was a commander for the South Precinct at the time of Cobain's death before being promoted to captain about a decade later. Uh, I've read the case and I can tell you what the evidence says because that's what I did for a living. And it does not say the S word, said Lowe, who wrote the book Crazy Love, sharing his take on Cobain's case. The retired police captain was given full access to Cobain's file and the evidence collected at his death scene during the 2005 audit. During the case, a police officer or internal investigator conducts a thorough and objective review of investigation, checking that procedures, evidence handling the records meet legal and department standards. And they're showing this inside this little drawer. I think it was a heroin kit. So the medical records indicated that the amount of because they said that the amount of the opioid that he was injected with would have made it impossible for him to take his own life because it was roughly 3 times the lethal dose. So if you had roughly 3 times the lethal dose of heroin in your system, how would you be able to blow your brains out with a shotgun? How? Sway is what they're saying. So if you actually go to my website, chrisavalon.com, where it uses the same headline, I have all the pictures there of the heroin kit and the what was it? It said confidential, do not copy, which basically said ticket from Seattle to Los Angeles dated the 30th of March. Examination of the miscellaneous papers in the left front pocket reveals some writing in black ink reading Remington 20 gauge 2.34 shells or shorter setup for light shot. And then it says a bunch of numbers. Then it says an ambient temperature of 61 degrees is recorded at 11:30 hours, and a core temperature of 61 degrees is recorded at 11:40 hours. Other observations of the scene include an expanded 20 gauge yellow shotgun shell to the left of the body, and lying adjacent to the right of the body is a cigar box with a hypodermic insulin type needle contained within. Well, that's what they use to shoot up. In addition to a small glycine piece of plastic paper is located to the left of the body containing a small residual um, black farm body tar like material. There are numerous shards of glass present across the floor of the atrium, and those appear to have come from the pane of the glass at the door where paramedics obtain entrance to this secured room. I depart the scene with Dr. Ray, and it's spelled REAY at 1200 hours. So that's what it is. Then it goes into more graphic detail. I think it's the autopsy report. It says a large drying puddle of blood to the left of the victim and obvious trauma to the head. There is a Remington M11 20 gauge shotgun between the victim's legs with the barrel pointed towards his head and his left hand wrapped around the barrel. The shotgun is inverted with the trigger and magazine trap door pointing up. The barrel end is just above his bolt line. There is a spent 20 gauge shell casing on top of the brown corduroy jacket, which is on top of a beige nylon shotgun case. These are just to the left of the victim and under one of the stainless steel garden trays. There are several cigarette butts on the floor and a 3/4 full can of Barca root beer. Or is it Barks? I don't know, because the way they type it is like it's hard to read. Wait, isn't that BARQS? That is, oh yeah, that is a root beer. I've had that before. Um, on the floor of the area of the victim. Cobain's wallet was open and his driver's license showing. Lewandowski exposed the driver's license to verify identification of the victim. There was also $120 in cash on the floor to the right of the victim with a cigar box. This cigar box contained narcotics, paraphernalia, syringes, burnt spoons, cotton, and small pieces of what looked like black tar. There is a brown paper bag containing 22 live 20 gauge shotgun shells. The box is marked that it contains 23 shells. The bag containing the shells is on the floor of the victim's left foot. On the floor to the victim's right is the same area as the cigar box in is a hat, 2 towels, the $120 cash, the wallet, the pack of cigarettes, a lighter, and a pair of sunglasses. Inside the jacket pocket is a receipt for the purchase of the Remington 20 gauge shotgun serial number 1088925. The purchase price is $308.37, and the receipt is dated 3/30/94. The purchaser was Dylan R. Carlson. Well, I don't know who that is. They got his address in here and everything. Um, from Stan Baker Sports, which I'm not going to say the address and all that other stuff. So, these items, the other items on the floor and the more were and the note, sorry, because it's like I told you, it's typed, and this is like it's a little worn, so it's hard to like try to read some of this. And the note were photographed using the 35 millimeter and Polaroid cameras. Then it's at 11:05 hours. Investigator Dave Delgado, Dr. Nick Hartshorn. I think it says Hartshorn. I think is what it says. And Dr. Donald Ray, Reay, of the King County Medical Examiner Office arrives at the scene. Dr. Hartshorn will be conducting the initial examination of the victim. Dr. Hartshorn takes his photographs and then begins the on-scene examination of the victim, and it goes on and on and on, and so on and so forth. Um, so basically, what they were saying is like, yeah, the process is designed to ensure accountability, highlight training needs, and confirm that the case can support a successful prosecution. And then they said the audit is not conducted to change the original ruling of the case. So if they go and start looking into all of this, I mean, what do you expect for them to happen? Because I have like the case investigation report. Also, there was some more that said, made a return phone call to Wendy, superintendent of Gray Top Taxi. She said that she received a phone call from a woman who identified herself as Courtney Cobain. She said that Courtney inquired about any Gray Top cabs that went to their address. She advised that a driver by the name of Wodajo Abaye, I think is how it says, went to 171 Lake Washington Boulevard on 4/2/94 at 0730 hours. He picked up a person who he thought did not match with the residents. He drove around looking for a place to buy bullets, but was unable to find one. This male told the driver that he recently had a burglary and needed the bullets. At 8:30 hours, 0830 hours, the driver dropped the man off at in the area of 145th and Aurora because he said he was hungry and wanted to get something to eat. The man's fare was $27. Wendy said that she was not sure about the female caller as she spoke in a very slurred manner, probably because she was hiding cooted around, as if she was on something or drunk. The female caller gave the phone number of, and it's redacted, it said new unlisted number of Courtney Cobain for the superintendent to call with the information. Wendy was advised that this information could be passed on to Courtney if it was found that the request actually came from her. She also stated that she had received many requests for information from the press, and at present time, she does not plan on giving out any information. So they were showing a lot. Don't tell me that they actually had pictures, because I'm looking at it too on my website. Um, it has pictures of Kurt's lifeless body, but it's like you see his arm, you see a little bit of his stomach. It looked like he got like one of those hospital gowns on with some denim jeans. So, and it is like blood on the thing. And then it shows like a suicide note that was in a plant because you see the green leaf in the background and it's like the one of the sticks is holding it up or whatever the case was. So, you see the suicide note. They got all this information up in here. So someone asked, they said, why do the shotgun to the face thing? He asked. He was not a violent person. I think he would have been satisfied with a less violent way. But medical records indicated that the amount of heroin found in cocaine system was roughly 3 times the lethal dose. He said that for someone to inject that much, assistance would likely have been required given the sheer volume involved. Lowe criticized the original police response, arguing that the scene was not treated as a potential homicide. He raised concerns about whether proper forensic procedures were followed, such as collecting DNA, scraping Cobain's nails, or preserving the scene adequately. This situation, he said, resembles crime scene tourism, with too many personnel allowed inside. And so they were like, yeah, there was too many people walking around. Evidence might have been tampered with, and they don't necessarily know like stuff could have been messed up. But yeah, all these years, because I remember I was in like I think I was in high school when Kurt Cobain died. When I had found out, I just started high school. And so in like 94. So yeah, hearing about that and all this other stuff, it was a sad moment because I remember there was a girl in my class that loved Nirvana. She was a huge Nirvana. She loved Kurt Cobain and she loved Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails. Those were the two. So hearing about this is like crazy because we've all come to the conclusion that yeah, he took his own life, and we thought it was just like because he hated the fame, he was doing the drugs, all this other stuff, and just didn't want to deal with a lot of the what came with the fame and stuff, and unfortunately, he took his own life. So that's what we were led to believe. But I'm saying like if there's a way that you feel that they need to reopen the case, then I guess do what you got to do to make it happen. But now coming with all these conspiracy theories, I just think that that opens up old wounds that some people don't want to deal with, including like I'm just thinking about Frances Bean because that's her father. Like she probably barely remembers him except for like little clips and things or pictures and things she may have seen online. But she was an infant when he went out. He decided to no longer be in the union. Now, speaking of Courtney, um, let's get into that because we could add that to the docket. I was gonna make it two separate things, but I was like, no, we'll talk about it because um when I went over and I saw this story from what was on Hola, that's where it was. They was basically saying that like, yeah, how she's feeling about the homicide report because I heard she recently got into a car accident or something or another this week. Now, Kurt Cobain's death in '94 left millions of fans devastated and mourning. There have always been conspiracies surrounding his death, one of the most popular surrounding his wife, because a lot of people did believe. I remember over the years, like I knew people that hated Courtney Love and thought like she had something to do with his unaliving because they thought literally she was the Kurt Cobain where Yoko Ono was the John Lennon, basically, if you want to kind of wrap it up in a nutshell. She was like kryptonite. Damn, and a lot of people didn't like her. Like I mean, I liked Hole. I liked their songs. I liked Doll Parts. I liked the song that she came out with. She has a lot of great songs. Celebrity Skin, when that album came out, I wore it out. I remember when I was in high school when that album came out, I wore it out. So, um, so I like Courtney. I've always been a fan, but I know a lot of the girls hated her. But anyway, so Cobain died on April 5th, 1994, at 27. We already went through that. And they said that his death was ruled a suicide by the King County Medical Examiner, but a newly published unofficial forensic review is challenging that conclusion, claiming that evidence may instead point to homicide, reviving decades old theories. Love has long been blamed by members of Nirvana's fan base, accused with no evidence of orchestrating Cobain's death for control of his estate, claims she has reportedly denied. An insider tells the Daily Mail that for Love, the renewed scrutiny feels painfully familiar, saying over the years and decades since Kurt's death, she has heard every story about his death, how it was her fault, just one misery after another. She loved him more than anyone else she has ever been with, but now that there is another conspiracy of how he died, it is her version of Groundhog Day. While many are eager to see what the investigation can bring, the source said that she would love for Cobain to be able to rest in peace, but it looks like that will never happen. And as the years continue, it will be something else. Amid the headlines, the insider explained that Love is going to choose to honor him instead of reliving the horrible moment in her life and not give it any life it doesn't need. Now, back in 2011, she expressed her anger over his taking his own life, telling Vanity Fair, "If Cobain came back right now, I'd have to kill him for what he did to us." She said, "I'd effing K-word him. I'd fucking wait." She said, "I'd oh no." She said, "I'd fuck him and then I'd kill him." He tried to unalive himself 3 times. He OD'd at least 5 times. So he was trying to find ways, I guess, to take his own life. Now, they said the investigation conducted by an independent private sector team of forensic scientists re-examined Cobain's autopsy and crime scene records and concluded that several elements were inconsistent with the S word. Now, among them, blood patterns, damage to Cobain's mouth, the condition of his organs, and the positioning of the weapon. One of the researchers, crime scene reconstruction expert Brian Burnett, reportedly said that after reviewing the materials, this is a homicide. We've got to do something about this. The team's peer reviewed paper alleges that Cobain may have been incapacitated by a forced heroin overdose before being pow-powed, with the scene later staged to resemble suicide. Independent researcher Michelle Wilkins argued that organ damage and signs of oxygen deprivation were more consistent with OD than an instantaneous pow pow death. The necrosis of the brain and liver happens in an OD, it doesn't happen in a pow pow death, she said. Official authorities, however, are not persuaded. Both the King County Medical Examiner's Office and the Seattle Police Department reiterated that they are not reopening the case, standing by the original determination that cocaine died by the S word. Now, among the investigation, Love was spotted out in LA on a casual walk with a friend and her dog, her first public sighting since the news broke. She wore a striped jumper with and a blue satin miniskirt looking relaxed. They also noticed a diamond ring on her left hand, which had people speculate, is she engaged? But she's not engaged. So maybe she just likes walking around with a little ring on her finger. Courtney out here living her best life with her little Pomeranians, her wrinkly knees, because I'm looking at the picture as we talk. I just didn't put it in here. But I hate the fact that now we've all got this in our head, and now we're sitting there thinking, is it a possibility that Kurt Cobain didn't take his own life, that it was some type of setup? And if it was, who do you think it could have been? I mean, there should have been more than one kind of fingerprint, because as high as Courtney is, if y'all trying to assume that it was her, she wasn't clever enough to wipe down a shotgun and to make sure her fingerprints wasn't on it, to set it up that she would take his life and then make it look like he did it to himself. People do all kinds of crazy shit when they high. So trying to reopen this and create old wounds and all this other mess, I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, if the medical examiner's office and the Seattle Police Department said they're not opening it, it's not going to happen. So people can just come up with their conspiracy theories and say all kinds of stuff that, yeah, what they said in that stuff is not necessarily the truth. Starting mess, because people have been still around here making up stuff and causing conspiracy theories regarding the deaths of Biggie and Tupac. And now it's like, now we got to think about Kurt Cobain or Elvis or whatever. Like, and even Michael Jackson. Like, y'all always will find an icon where y'all will go and come up with some crazy conspiracy theory with. So, do I believe this? I don't know. I'm just crazier things have happened at this point, especially with this regime, this political regime we're in. Like, they've kind of show you how deep the rabbit hole goes when it comes to money, power, and influence. Although this was the '90s, I don't see that Kurt Cobain and them would have even been in the same position to be doing some crazy stunts and shows, whatever the case is. So I don't know if I believe that. But my thing is, if you have any kind of inclination, evidence, whatever the case is, present it. Because if the Seattle Police Department is not going to do it, then maybe the people that are privy to this stuff can find a way to present this evidence. But my thing is, if the guy who wrote the book didn't work on the case, how you out here just spreading rumors and stuff just to sell a book? So I don't know. I guess just like the alleged evidence that this man is presenting, I guess we're just going to have to put it in a inconclusive file. So in the meantime, we'll just have to, yeah, as I said, inconclusive. So I say all this to say, what do you think of this story? Do y'all believe that it's a possibility that Kurt Cobain could have taken his own life, or do you just believe, like, you know what? He was just, a drug addict that struggled with his demons. Let the man rest in peace. I'm kind of teetering on the latter. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.